Hi there, and welcome to another edition of A Small Bite of eCritical. Now, from the previous physician layout survey, one of the comments we received a lot of feedback on was the cardiovascular graph. A lot of people liked the graph, but they felt that it was a little crowded with too many graphs and too many parameters being graphed, and there really wasn't. It just didn't really. It wasn't quite as readable as people would hoped it would be. So we took the information and we actually discovered that one of the functionalities built within the system is the ability to actually create your own graphs on the fly very simply by using a drag and drop functionality. And so what we decided to do is we would take advantage of that function and allow you as a user to start graphing the stuff that you want to graph quickly and easily. Now, the cardiovascular graph contains all of the same parameters that it contained in the past, but what we've done is we've just created this blank space below here, which is effectively just a piece of graph paper in which you can actually create your own graphs. You can see on this in this middle portion that there's a list of the parameters that are currently visible for this particular patient, and just like with any other with any of the other graphs, rows that are blank can become visible if there's a value in that particular column, as you can see with the lactate. And see how the lactate's disappeared. So to get right to the point, to create your own CV graph, you just pick the parameters that you're interested in and grab them by the title and just drag them onto the graph paper, and they'll automatically graph. The range will be automatically set on the side, and I'll show you in a few minutes how you can actually modify that to make it pleasing to your own eye. It's very simple to do, and there's really no limit to the number of parameters you can drag and drop on the table or on the graph page to look at. Now, just like with any other graph, you can change your intervals. So you can have as fine grain or large grain views as you want. Now, if you want to go and if you want to add a parameter that's not readily visible, there's several approaches you can use. First way is to simply use the arrow buttons up at the sides here to go forward and backward in time to find the time when that value was recorded, and then drag and drop that parameter in, as I showed you with the lactate. Another way to do that, to quickly find the parameters that are on this particular table, is to use the Show Empty Rows function. And so you just go over to this right-hand side button, press this, left-click on it, select General, and then select the option Show Empty Rows. And now you'll see all of the parameters that are actually associated with this table, and you can add them and add them as you like, even if there's no value, such as the central venous pressure. You can add it. There won't be any values to display, but then as you're going backwards and forward in time, you'll actually be able to then it'll then start to graph when there's data available in that particular view. The final method you can use is to take advantage of the other function in eCritical, and that is to copy and paste parameters. Now, in this just go to this empty space. Let's say, for example, I want to record the minute ventilation and compare that to the blood pressure. And go to the respiratory tab, and I'll see all of the respiratory parameters, and select the minute ventilation parameter, right-click, and then select Copy Parameter, and then go back to the CV graph, and on an empty table, or sorry, an empty row, paste the parameter. And now that it's in this table, just drag and drop it to the graph, And there you go. Now, if you have a specific aesthetic that you'd like to see your graphs in certain colors, there is a way for you to modify the parameters as they're viewed. As you can see on the left-hand side, the very first parameter, in this case the mean arterial blood pressure, is the first scale that's visible, and then by default within the system, all the other scales are on the right-hand side. If you want to make some modifications to this, say, the lactate is a single point, there's really no value in having that. You want to remove that, you left click on this icon here, and under the graph view properties, parameters, you'll see a list of all of the parameters that have been added. I want to remove the lactate, just select lactate and hit delete, and it'll disappear. If I want to change the color, say mean arterial blood pressure really should be a red color, then select the parameter and then select the color as I've just shown you. And once everything is done, you hit OK, and it'll update your graph for you. Now let's say we want to make some changes to the scales because it doesn't quite work for you. We're going to go back to the graph view properties. Under the parameters, there's let's take the central venous pressure away. Let's change the minute ventilation scale, and also I'm going to make it a nicer blue color, and make the urine a yellow color. Seems more appropriate. Now to change the scale on the minute ventilation parameter, you just set the trend scale from automatic to manual, or you can say scale by one of these two other parameters. I prefer just to use manual just so that I can set it myself, and then I'll go from 2 to say 20 in this case. Select OK. And now you can see that the colors have been changed and the scales have also been changed. So you have a graph now that works well for you. Now there are some people who did comment that they liked it the way it was in the past, and for those people what we're going to do is we're actually going to add the graph that was the way it was in the past to the add a graph button, and you can just simply select that, and we'll have a button on here that you can just hit, and it will recreate those graphs for you. That function isn't in the system yet. It's currently in production, and once it's available, we'll let everybody know. Once you're finished, or if you want to change everything, instead of manually going through and picking all of the parameters and canceling them or deleting them or making any other changes, you can just simply hit the refresh button. It'll take you back to the MD summary page, and then if you want to go back and look at and redo your graphs, you can just start all over again. So that's all there is to it. Thank you again to everybody for their feedback on the current layout, and please let us know your thoughts and any other suggestions you might have for improvements or any other things you'd like to find out about.